Hey everyone, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Jeffery Watson. He is a nationally recognized Ohio attorney and real estate investor with over 30 years of legal experience and a deep understanding of wealth building, asset protection, and self-directed retirement account transactions. As general counsel to major industry organizations, and a driving force behind impactful legislation and regulatory reform, Jeff helps shape the future of real estate investing while educating and empowering a nationwide community of investors. How are you doing today, Jeff?
Doing really well. Thank you for answering. It's great to be here with you.
No, I was excited to have you on. I've never talked to anybody doing quite what you do, so I was really excited to kind of pick your brain a little bit out there. And I know there's a lot of folks that would benefit from hearing what you have to say. So was excited to have you on. But to start off, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
Today I am in St. Pete Beach, Florida.
You say today like you move around a lot, or are you traveling, or what's
I
that?
have been accused of being feral. I have slowed way down. I don't rack up the frequent flyer miles and stays on Southwest and at Marriott that I used to. But at one point in time, I was, for like a 5, 7 year period of time, I was 100 nights a year on the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, I mean, is Florida home then, or where do you consider home right now?
I'm still my primary residential address is still Northeast Ohio in a little town called Conneaut. Because remember, I'm only licensed to practice law in Ohio. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's say you have some friends coming into town while you're also in town. Where are you going? What are you doing? And what's for dinner?
Well, where are we? Are we in Ohio or are we down in Florida?
Yes, whichever. There's probably more options in the Florida area. Just guessing. Being a small town in
There
Ohio.
are more options down here in the Florida area. Where are we going? What are we doing? Well, I live in between the intercoastal and the beach, so I'm going to say we're going to go definitely get some seafood, probably some blackened grouper sandwiches somewhere, check out the area. Just maybe it depends on what we want to do. If we want to go take a casual stroll on the beach and just see how things are going and have a talk that way, we may go to a really good pizza place. We may go to a really amazing steak restaurant over in Tampa, things like that. Back up in Ohio, man, there is one of the best barbecue places in America, just like 20 minutes from my home. And man, I love going to briquettes. So yeah.
So that sounds awesome. Yeah, you'll get a fight, if you're talking to anybody south of Missouri when it comes to best barbecue. But
Did
there's a
but
lot of good spots up in the Midwest.
but I said one of the best. I'm very careful with how I phrase it, and believe me, I have tried Texas, I have tried St. Louis, I have tried Kansas City, I've tried North Carolina, and I got to tell you, the North Carolina influence that has been brought up to Ashtabula, Ohio, and briquettes is just off the charts. And I'm going to throw some shade on Florida. I can't find a decent barbecue place in Florida to save my life.
Yeah, it's not really known for it. It's definitely, but no, neither is Ohio, so it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So awesome. Well, what can you tell us about what you do?
If in one word, I help real estate investors do business better. My area of focus, I can't say specialty because Ohio doesn't recognize this as a specialty, but my area of focus is in self-directed retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, SEPs, Simples, HSAs, and so on, that want to invest in alternative assets, something other than stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, etc. What we're looking to do is help people decide that they want to go either buy real estate, invest in real estate, lend on real estate, be part of a startup company, things like that. And I show them how to do it in a tax preferred, tax protected manner with either a traditional or a Roth account.
Okay, is this something you've been doing forever? Is it something that you always want to do, getting into law, or kind of what brought you to where you're at now?
Well, that's a great question because when I graduated from law school long ago, Roth IRAs weren't even recognized in America. We only had traditional IRAs. We didn't have even Roth 401ks. Um, and LLCs were brand new. And today I spend a lot of my time structuring limited liability companies owned by Roth IRAs and Roth 401ks. And I've had a passionate desire to be doing this stuff for the last 20 years. And I got to tell you, there is so little quality education out there on how to do it. You notice I stress that word how because there's dozens and dozens of people out there to tell you what you can do. Oh, you can do this and you can do that and all these exciting things. But I'm one of the few voices in the wilderness that say, here's how to do it. Here's what you got to look out for. Here's the paperwork you want to use. Here's the strategy. Here's the mindset. Here's the upside. Here's the downside. And other people just can't do it because A, they don't have the experience. B, they don't have the licensure or the qualifications, and so on. So that's what makes me unique.
That's interesting. What is it that you love most about what you're doing?
How to play by the IRS's rules and cheat like mad at the same time. How to show people to do real estate where the buyer and the seller do okay and the IRS does not.
Yeah, you definitely piqued a lot of people's ears with that. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, right?
Well, and but I'm playing by their rules. I take their rules and I use them against them, you know?
Yeah, a lot of people they don't look at it very closely because they're there. A lot of them are just hidden behind little doors. You can look at it, you can learn all this stuff, but they don't want you to.
It really, I mean, for example, today I had an email exchange with a good client of mine, former airline pilot out in Colorado, and he invests his IRA in a bunch of apartment complexes. And our conversation turned on the word A, the one vowel, first of the alphabet, the word A, and how it shows up in 26 USC 408A when it relates to when you can take a qualified distribution from a Roth IRA. So you've got to look for those little tiny things. I mean, can you find a word shorter than the word A?
No, that's awesome. When you're looking at like your average client, what is the avatar of that, or what are the pain points that somebody's going through that if they're dealing with XYZ, you're the person they should be talking to?
Sure. There are usually one or two pain points. One pain point is they've either made a mess of it. They've made an absolute mess of it and they need me to help figure it out and how to try and salvage the deal. And those are the ones that I don't like because, the horse is already out of the barn and we're now just trying to get the horse back in before it goes completely lame. The other one that I really love, the other pain point that brings people to me is they want to do something. They know they want to do a particular investment, but they keep running into people saying, well, I don't know how to help you. I don't know what to talk about. I don't, they're told multiple times, oh, you got to go talk to your attorney, your accountant. And their accountant looks at them with a really blank stare like, I've never heard of that. Well, yeah, they probably haven't because it's not mainstream. But that's what I do. I do the odd. I do the unusual. So yeah.
Okay. What about power partners? What are other industries or other professionals out there that you synergize really well with, or you find a lot of ability to collaborate with?
So there are a number of companies that we either call custodians or administrators whose entire business model is being the record keeper and holder of people's funds in IRAs, 401ks, etc., that have the protective coding of an IRA or 401k plan, and they're the ones who are actually holding the money in accordance with the IRS rules and follow the written direction of the account holder or account owner. I have a great relationship with several of those companies. I've served on the board of a major company that did that, and it's now in the process of dissolving and shutting down. So I understand it from both the inside of those companies as well as the outside of those companies.
Okay. And then you talk to a lot of people in business for themselves, a lot of businesses. What advice would you give to a new or an aspiring entrepreneur?
Oh, I have a lot of advice. It's going to be rough. Be prepared for challenges. Feel like a failure almost every day of your life. Be prepared for it. But I'm going to give some very serious advice, and this is advice that someone I wish would have given to me. If they would have looked me in the eye and they'd have said, "Young Watson, spend as much time, effort, and energy on building and growing your family relationships as you do on building and growing your business. Don't sacrifice your family for your business." Second piece of advice I'm going to say is start it as a side hustle. Keep it a side hustle for as long as possible. Keep your regular W-2 gig if you've got it. Side hustle this business until it just is producing probably 70% of what you need to live on. And then I think you can take the leap of faith and, say goodbye to the W-2. But keep the W-2 for as long as you can, because that W-2 gig with that income is really helpful for going to a bank and getting a line of credit, getting a loan, getting something, particularly borrowing money from a bank to go buy another house.
Yep. Fantastic advice. And definitely it's easy to back burner the family stuff because you get hyper fixated on your business and you're
Yeah.
like, well, I just got to do a little bit more, a little bit more, a little more, and then the rest atrophies, and then
And
you're in a
and the
worse spot.
fib that we tell ourselves, the fib that I told myself, I mean, you know, I traveled probably I flew probably 120,000 miles domestically one year. And the lie I kept telling myself is I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my family. And my kids flat out later on said, "Dad, we just wanted you to be home." So yeah, it was a
Yeah.
gut punch. Yeah.
Tends to be a universal lie we tell ourselves. Oh, I'll do it when I get to this, then I can. It's like, well, no, you should have been doing it all along.
Yep.
uh, and then it's too late. So no,
Yep.
fantastic advice. So everybody needs to make that note. Haven't had that on here so far, so that's fantastic. It is unique advice, but very, very important. Um, what's one thing every new real estate investor should know?
It's a marathon. Real estate investing is a thinking person's marathon. It is not all about the hustle and the grind and the chase. It is about thinking and strategizing. It is about helping people solve their problems, helping other people solve their problems that involves real estate. That's what it's about. If you're not thinking at least 20 years ahead, you're not an investor.
Okay, yeah, a lot of us are like, oh, just real quick. So yeah, definitely having the right mindset. That's huge. Um, why should real estate investors consult a lawyer before closing a deal?
Well, I'm going to give you two reasons. Number one, you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. You really want to make sure you're doing it the right way. And you want to make sure, because no one knows everything. No one knows everything. I mean, I still learn stuff on a regular basis because things are changing. Con artists are getting smoother and sharper than ever before. And so that's a constantly evolving target to watch out for fraud in the mortgage and in the lending space. So always consult with an attorney just to make sure that you're doing it correctly. And the second biggest mistake that I see real estate investors make is that they are too cheap to get good advice. They're too cheap. And what really just gets me is they're willing to spend 20, 30, $40,000 on a coaching program that'll work on their mindset and give them a bunch of exciting rah-rah stories. But they're too cheap to drop 2 to 3 grand on retaining a good local lawyer, building a relationship and saying, "Hey, when I need you, can I call you? You've got the money on deposit already."
Absolutely. No, and you're right when it comes to scams and just fraud out there. It's becoming like you said, way more prevalent
Yep.
and way more technical and high level to where something you might have been able to spot for yourself, it really does take somebody with a special set of skills to
Well,
come in and look at
and
it.
and I'm looking at some recent things that have occurred here in the greater Tampa market. And there's a stolen notary stamp floating around. And so deeds are being signed by con artists and having this fraudulent stolen stamp applied to them and then being recorded. And it's literally showing look like you're stealing somebody's property from them. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's scary stuff. But a
Yeah. Don't.
good investor that contacts a real estate attorney, that real estate attorney is going to say, "Hey, let me see that title commitment on this property you're getting ready to buy or getting ready to lend on. How long has the owner that's selling it now? How long have they been on title? Oh, they've only been on title for 2 weeks. Something doesn't smell right here. Let's go look at that deed. Oh, well, what happened to Mabel Weathersmith? And, because the property was owned by Mabel Weathersmith and transferred by her to Sunrise LLC. And Sunrise LLC's had it for less than 30 days and is now trying to sell it for $200,000. A good attorney is going to look at the title commitment on that, and they're going to go, something doesn't smell right here.
Yeah, definitely don't want to be too cheap on that kind of counsel where
Yeah.
it's going to
I
save
mean,
you.
and I can tell you the title companies are paying attention to this stuff too, because scammers and fraud artists, particularly on wire fraud, giving fake wiring instructions, it is a real problem.
What would you say is the most common legal mistake investors make?
The most common mistake, legally speaking, that investors make is using poor quality documents. Poor quality documents. They're too cheap to hire a good attorney to get the documents done right. And so they've omitted key things that matter if something goes wrong. That's usually the number one mistake that they make. Second biggest mistake they make is they count their profits when they're way too soon. Way too soon.
Yeah, it's an old adage for a reason. The
Oh, I
chickens
know
and
it is.
hatching
I
and all
know it
that.
is.
So,
Human nature is what it is, man.
absolutely. So it doesn't matter what anybody's doing. There's always a million other people doing something similar. So I always like to ask what sets you apart. So why you? What makes you different than everybody else out there doing something similar?
Well, there's not a million people practicing law in the IRA space. There's maybe about 25 or so of us across the nation that I know of. So it puts me in a smaller pond. And I'm one of the few people that has actually spent time in Washington, D.C., lobbying on behalf of the self-directed IRA industry. I've done a lot of lobbying work on behalf of real estate investors, both at the national level and at statewide levels. And so those are things that matter to me, and those distinguish me from a lot of other people.
Okay. We're kind of breaking up pretty bad right here. I don't know if you can still hear me.
I can still hear you.
Okay, let's just give it a second, see if it clears up. All right. I'm not sure if it recorded everything on your end, right? So I'll just re-ask the why you question just to make sure.
Okay.
Make a note here. Awesome.
My Wi-Fi signal is way down, and I do not know what it is, but there's certain times of the day the Wi-Fi signal here just plummets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's fine. I'll just go ahead. I'll make a note to edit that out if it's rough. But for now, I'll just re-ask the why you question, and then we'll that way I have a clean version as well.
Okay.
So, all right. So why you? What sets you apart from everybody else out there doing something similar?
Well, there's maybe 25 attorneys in the nation that I know of that do what I do in the IRA self-directed space. And I'm one of the only ones that I know that has spent significant time in Washington, D.C., lobbying members of Congress on behalf of the industry. I'm one of the few that I know that has spent time working on legislation from a regulatory standpoint and rulemaking standpoint, both in D.C. and in more than one state government. I'm currently working on stuff in the state of Texas. We've worked on stuff in the state of Ohio. We've influenced stuff in a number of other states like Florida and elsewhere. So that's what makes me different than a lot of other people.
Awesome. Well, you clearly have a wealth of knowledge, and there's a whole lot that we could go into. But in general, is there anything that I failed to ask or miss that you wanted to elaborate on or touch on?
Yeah, my perspective regarding being a business owner is radically different than most people. And I wrote a book that's on Amazon. We were best-selling new release for about 7 weeks called Boaz on Business. It goes back to the Old Testament book of Ruth, and taking principles out of that book, we developed how to run a business. Because if you look at the book of Ruth, particularly chapters 2, 3, and 4, it's only a 4-chapter long book. Beautiful story. Ladies love it. It's a chick flick. It's a script for a chick flick. Romance novel, the whole bit. Okay? Triumph, perseverance, overcoming hard times, true love, generational wealth, everything you want in it. But in chapter 2 of the book, we see a blueprint for how a very affluent business owner operates his business in a very strategic way that has a huge positive impact on the community.
Okay, awesome. For those that have more questions that would like to get a hold of you, what's the best way they get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
The best way to get a hold of me is to go to my blog, watsoninvested.com, watsoninvested.com. You can sign up for my free email newsletter. It's worth what you pay for it. It's free. You can schedule an appointment for a consult with me that way through a booking system that we have. You can read other articles I've written. You can see other things that I put out there so that you can get to figure out, am I the type of guy that you want to talk to? All before you spend a dime to book an appointment with me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put all that in the show notes so it's super easy to find. If anybody would like to get a hold of Jeff, do it.
Yep.
Reach out, have a conversation, read the book, read the blog. There's so much out there that you're going to want to know more about, especially if you're looking at this industry to get into. If anybody would like to get a hold of me, you can find me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Jeff. If you or somebody you know would like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you sharing all this with us. There's a lot to it, way over my head. I'm not even qualified to ask any more difficult questions. But
I do want to share one thing with you. Today, I took one of your other episodes regarding nonprofits and sent it over to a client of mine who just established her nonprofit and got her 501c3 letter. And she's an amazing entrepreneur, gifted, talented, amazing ballerina with what she's doing. Her company, Avid Dance. And so I was like, this is perfect. I don't know this person, but Anthony does. Anthony did an interview, send it over to my client and go, maybe this is of help to you. That's the power of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's the idea. We don't have time to talk to everybody, but if we can make some introductions and you can kind of have that first meeting on your own terms, it really, really opens up a lot of potential when you're looking at people to introduce to or reach out to. So
Yep.
That's awesome. I'm really happy that there is value there, but I hope we all take that to heart. Let's have an awesome day. Let's go out and grow our circles. All right.